We are tracking a big time pattern change over the country over the next week that will bring dramatically different weather to much of the country. We're talking about a prolonged period of rain, storms, severe weather, and flooding, all looking possible as we're heading into the first few weeks of March and the beginning of meteorological spring. We also are still tracking some light snow concerns, but it definitely looks like our pattern is flipping away from winter and we are heading into the new season. Today is Saturday, February 28th, and in this video of the world of weather, we'll go in depth into this pattern change and explain what impacts it might bring where you live. So we're recording this around noon on Saturday, and we do have some snow present over portions of the Midwest and the Northern Plains. We have a stretch of snow moving from North Dakota into Minnesota, extending towards Chicago. This is a very light clipper system, nothing big, but winter weather advisories are out. A quick 1 to 2 inches of snow is possible, isolated higher totals than that. Other than that, we're pretty quiet across the country. We're tracking some rain across California into Oregon. Also, though, we're tracking Florida. We're tracking some storms now forming across portions of South Florida. We do have some more storms expected today, which could bring us low and severe weather threat. So let's start tracking the short term before we talk about that big pattern change coming up, because we will be tracking that snow across portions of the Midwest over the day today as it moves southeastward. Again, nothing too terribly significant, but a light swath of snow possible as it moves into portions of the Midwest. Michigan, y'all could get a pretty good dusting of 1 to 3 inches of snow, and then this does move into the Northeast, not a big time nor'easter, but it could bring some light snowfall. So places like Boston, Massachusetts could get a decent band of snow, maybe 1 to 3 inches. New York, y'all are kind of on the southern end of this, so you could get a little bit of rain snow mix. The heaviest precipitation will probably be to your north, and then everything will clear out. So a light dusting of snow expected today across the Midwest, and then tomorrow into the Northeast. Nothing major, but just something to keep an eye out. The other thing we're tracking for today is Florida, because as I mentioned, a few storms are popping up. We have some more storms possible across southern Florida later today, so we can see some of these cells popping up as we go into Saturday afternoon. This is 8 p.m. Some leftover storms. Some of these could be locally severe, so across the beaches, anywhere in South Florida and across the coast, we could have gusty winds, some small hail, no real tornado threat with this system, and then everything will be clearing out. Some locally heavy rain also possible. Here's that severe weather risk we're watching in this green, just a marginal 1 out of 5. Again, large hail, gusty winds, main concern, and that's about all for this threat. Alright, shifting gears. So we have some minor weather disturbances now, but we're changing our weather pattern in a big way as we go later into the week. So what's been happening is we're stuck in this troughing pattern over the eastern US. You can kind of see the jet stream colors dipping down here, while in the western US we have ridging. What's going to change is the ridge is going to move to the east, and we're going to have these troughs of energy move into the west. We can see one pretty well-defined trough here on your day, Tuesday, and as these troughs move east and encounter and clash against the warmer air mass forming from the ridge, we're going to get storms, and potentially a lot of storms. Now this pattern looks like one of the longer term patterns over the next 2 weeks, so not necessarily just one trough. We have this first trough, and then look at this, we have a second trough as we go into Thursday. Extending even further, look at this, another trough, maybe even deeper, more powerful as we go into next weekend. And then we kind of just keep on getting this pattern of troughs and areas of low pressure moving to the west, riding northeast as it goes into the east coast, and out ahead of it we'll have plenty of moisture and warmth compiling to allow for rain and even storms, and potentially a much wetter period ahead. One side effect of this pattern is warmer air is coming. Now for the south, we've been very warm over the past few days. We've had widespread 70s and 80s, which is pretty unusual for February. The north, we're having a little bit of a cold blast with that little clipper system that I was tracking for portions of the Midwest and the Northeast, but after this clears, the warmth is going to dominate. This is Wednesday, well above average temperatures continuing in the south and really just taking over the eastern 2/3 of the US. And this warmth, as those troughs of low pressure interact with it, that's what's giving a lot of the energy for our storms, combined with some moisture being pulled up from the Gulf. Alright, so I mentioned our pattern is giving way to a lot more storms. Let's check out what I mean. So we're going to start the clock here on Sunday, and as we go through the day Sunday, we're going to get the beginnings of our next big system. This one does look a little more significant than that clipper system that just moves through. An area of light rain drizzle forming, but we're going to get a few storms firing up later on your day Sunday afternoon across portions of the plains, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. And on the north side, we do expect some snow with this. Now earlier in the week, models were trending a lot snowier with potentially more significant impacts. Since then, we have been trending warmer and weaker, so not as much snow, but on the northern end, we could still get some decent snowfall. St. Louis, y'all could start off as rain, transition over to a snow mix. The areas most affected will kind of be this corridor here across the midsection of the country as everything moves east. A lot of rain, some snow mixed in, moving into portions of Kentucky on your day Monday into Tuesday. This is the first of what's going to become a parade of storms coming in, and as each storm passes, I expect less and less snow and more rain as the warmer air really starts to take over. Again, our storm won't be that big of a deal, but we could have a few occasional 3-inch plus snowfall totals. There could be a narrow swath of more, maybe closer to 4 to 5 inches, so a decent swath of snow. St. Louis, y'all probably will get between 1 1 and 3 inches. We could have another cluster of snow over in the mid-Atlantic. Now looking past that system, let's check our more active weather patterns. So we have that area of snow again across portions of the Midwest moving eastward. As that system clears, we're going to get another system right in its wake. This is that second trough that's coming in. So Wednesday and Thursday, we get some more rain forming across a wide swath of the country. Now as we go forward in time here, the key is not to focus on the specifics because we're going over 7 days out. So the specifics get really blurry, but I'm looking more at just the general trends and the overall pattern. And you can see the overall pattern remains wet. The GFS is indicating we could get another storm in here on March 4th and March 5th, potentially along a cold front that could bring some storms. After that, we could get another system in here as we go to next weekend with some more rain. And then especially across this region here, the rain just keeps on coming where we get system after system as we head into the first and second week of March. So again, not all of these storms will happen. Not all of them will look exactly like this, but just a trend of a lot of energy and a lot of moisture is there for these storms to work with. And that's why we're pretty confident now that we're going to be turning into a much wetter pattern into March. Now, as we get wetter, we also start turning to a severe weather risk. Now, it is March. This is the unofficial start of severe weather season, and it's definitely going to be showing over the next week. Already, we have a day 5 slight risk of severe weather on the Storm Prediction Center's extended outlook for Wednesday across portions of the southern plains. So from Dallas northward into portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas, there is a risk of severe weather. Now, it's been a while since we tracked severe weather, so if you're unfamiliar, the Storm Prediction Center on days 1 to 3 does severe weather on a scale of 1 to 5. But on days 4 to 8, they just give more general risks because we're still further out, there's a lot more uncertainty. So 50% means somewhere in this region, we could be looking at winds, hail, and potentially a tornado threat, depending on how this evolves. Now, this right now is the only extended severe weather risk from the Storm Prediction Center, but I do expect just with the general pattern, we're going to be supporting more severe weather and potentially some significant severe weather within any of these individual storms. Something we use to track our severe weather is CAPE, convective available potential energy. This is kind of the energy and the fuel thunderstorms have to work with, and so obviously higher values of this means storms have a higher potential to tap into the energy and become severe. So notice this is our highlighted area on Wednesday, and this is a GFS model's predicted CAPE on Wednesday. And in some of these areas here, 1 to 2,000 joules per kilogram, that's some pretty significant CAPE values, at least this early in the season. So while it's not going to be any major outbreak, this is bringing the signal that, hey, severe weather is possible, and it's just something we have to pay attention to. And then again, continuing on, you can see these billows of CAPE just expanding further north with the warm air. Obviously, warm air, moist air with more moisture, that's going to help contribute to the thunderstorm fuel. And with any of those troughs of low pressure that we talked about earlier interacting with this environment, this is why the signal is there for more severe weather. We're not honing in on any one particular system. This is just more of a broader heads up and alert that the environment is turning stormier. As we approach each individual storm, of course, I'll time out each severe weather risk and impact storm by storm on a day-by-day basis. The other signal that we want to warn you for is heavy rain, because there have been consistent signals among our models now over the next 2 weeks for not just a little bit of rain, but potentially more significant amounts. So anyone in this purple shade, that's the potential for 2 to 4 inches of rain. Anyone in the red and yellow shade, that's where we could be talking about 4 to 6, maybe even 7 or 8 inches of rain. Again, when looking long range, don't focus on the specific places, don't focus on the specific locations, but just look at the trends, and the trend is a large area of heavy rain from these repeated rounds of storms possible. We also want to look at some of our other models. The European model, look at that, it shows a very similar trend, and it's not just this one model run. In fact, over the past 2 or 3 days now, every single model run has been trending of bullseyes of widespread 2 to 4, potentially up to 6 inches of rain across somewhere in the middle to eastern portions of the US. So anywhere from Texas into the northern plains, into the Midwest, portions of the deep south, anyone in this region is on the table. And this won't fall in any one day, this will be over a period of time, but it could add up, and as it does so, as we get each round of storm moving through, we'll get more and more concerned with flooding, especially from previous rounds of rain. So the Climate Prediction Center actually on their week 2 does provide preliminary hazard forecasts, and so we can see here that they are actually already warning that in these areas there is a risk of heavy precipitation in week 2. So the way to interpret this map is not an exact impacts map, but if you're in this region, you want to pay attention to the weather over the next 2 weeks, and then as we get closer to each system, we'll refine the forecast. And especially in this dark green region, that's where we have the highest signals for potentially heavy precipitation over the next 2 weeks. But really, anyone in this lighter shade of green, just pay attention to the weather. Don't tune out the forecast, because some of these storms and the rain, especially how much we're getting, could catch you off guard. Another metric of our weather pattern is the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day outlook. Look at this big swath of green. We have a 60% chance of above normal precipitation, but really much of the US is entering this weather pattern where green is really shading most of the map. Just another signal pointing toward the higher confidence toward weather. And then even in the extended outlook days 8 to 14, this is week 2, we still have a stretch of pretty high confidence above average precipitation. We do like to look for silver linings, so the threat for flooding, the threat for severe weather, not so good. The one good thing is the beneficial rain coming from this. It's been very dry so far this year. Portions of the south have been well below average on rainfall. So even though we are tracking flooding, it will help chip away at our drought, especially across portions of the Arklatex in Texas. Florida, hopefully y'all will get some relief, and then portions of the Midwest. So I do expect a lot of reductions in the drought map over the next few weeks. The concern is just when we get too much rain at once. Too much of a good thing can still be a bad thing, unfortunately. So yeah, that's what we're tracking this week in the world of weather. In summary, in the short term, we'll have that Clipper system we're watching in the north, some severe storms in Florida. In the midterm, we're going to get that decent rain and snowmaker across the middle sections of the country we'll want to watch out for. I'll probably have another update video in the next few days specifically covering that. And then in the longer range, as we go 1 to 2 weeks into the first few weeks of March, we have that broader area of heavy rain and severe weather we are tracking. And then again, that threat on Wednesday is notable that the Storm Prediction Center already has high enough confidence for potential severe weather across portions of the south. So we'll be watching that area closely as well. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll have a lot more updates in the coming days and weeks as we track this changing weather pattern and we start heading into severe weather season. So consider subscribing and liking this video if you want to stay updated in the weather. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you next time.